Hello, I'm Malcolm Haslett.
And I'm Janice Baker. A name synonymous with dance in Australia is our special guest in this episode of Our Time.
So join us for a fascinating half hour with Leigh Warren. Fancy seeing you. 3 weeks. 3 weeks off.
Sorry.
Any excuse. Go away overseas and then not back for 3 weeks.
I couldn't help it.
Serves you right.
I couldn't help it. Sorry,
We missed you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. But it's lovely to have you back.
Thank you.
And it's also lovely to have Leigh Warren with us. Welcome to Our Time, Leigh.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And it's really rare for you to be in Australia almost these days.
Yeah, I'm just 3 months out of the year I'm here these days.
Because it's summertime elsewhere.
It is in Taiwan, in Taipei, where I teach now. I'm the visiting professor there at the university, which I'm really, really enjoying. It's great to be able to work with the next generation and to be able to teach and not to have to worry about where the money is coming from.
And well, we'd like to talk about that later, and also not having to worry about the language, I guess, as much, because dance has its own language.
That's true. We mostly speak French in the class, but alongside that, of course, I've had to learn the Chinese that goes with the terminology. Otherwise, the students knew what the action was, but they didn't know actually what it meant. So it's been a kind of really good thing. Right. I've learnt the Chinese, they've learnt what the actual French terminology means.
Has it re-strengthened your understanding of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had to recalibrate everything. Yeah. But I think what's been great is it's given them an incredible confidence. So when they go to Europe to audition or anywhere, they understand far more of what's going on and what's being said. Actually, confidence is everything.
What age group are we talking about?
We're talking they're leaving university at 22, 23. Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of.
Is that older than here in Australia?
Maybe a little. Oh no, about the same. I'd say. I think probably about the same.
But from a dancer's point of view, you're almost old at 22.
It's shifted a little bit. I think there was that opinion, but everything, the training, the systems for everything, people are allowed to have longer careers these days.
Is it because we know more about the body and what can happen?
I think so. There's certain, yes. I'd say yes. There is certainly more knowledge about the workings of the body and the body structure and how to work
take
with
care of yourself.
Yes.
Certain things.
Earlier on in your training, you're made aware of not to over-practice, that you will wear your body out if you keep doing that, or you can easily give yourself an injury.
We were just talking before, and I asked you, did you still do classes? And your answer was?
Yes, I do. I teach. I demonstrate as clearly as I can, but I found it's kind of interesting that it's not always the best thing to demonstrate completely, because otherwise people tend to photocopy.
Yes.
They don't really kind of take it inside and kind of digest that and turn it into something that's real. So it's quite. I used to think that would be a disadvantage, not being able to demonstrate as well as I could. But I found as long as I'm very accurate, in my description, and that I don't have to achieve that kind of perfection anymore. It's about getting them to do it and not photocopying.
But when you're choreographing something for someone, don't you want them to do it the way that you've shown them?
Some things, and some things not. I want to find things that we discover together.
Right.
Yes, so I guess that's the same if you're an actor. And you've got the script obviously in front of you, you've got a director saying, do it this way or that way, but really the performer has to, in this case the dancer, has to contribute to the work as well, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last piece I made, which was actually quite a lot of fun, which was I had this group of girls and I asked them to be kind of zombies, zombie dancers. And I mean, there's no way I could contort and do the things that they did for me. So we kind of worked out this, that they were sort of looking very ferociously to devour this very kind of, this girl who was doing all this rather wonderful, spiky, simple, but, very articulate. They were all gradually approaching her in this kind of really zombie way, and it was yeah. She was oblivious, of course.
But then, as a choreographer, you're picking the best of what the dancers are capable of.
Yeah, if I see something that I think doesn't work, then we discuss it and figure out, what's, But it's also, it's the way this current generation is engaging. It wants to be. It doesn't want to be totally dictated to. It's a much more collaborative process.
So how much do you think things like YouTube have affected dance, where people can see dance work from all over the world, and in a lot of cases just little snippets of things?
I mean, it's like all the new technology. It's fantastic and it's terrible, because you will see something that is absolute perfection. But what you haven't seen is 9 years preparation for that moment. And they're suddenly trying to emulate something that took a dancer 9 years to get
Possibly
to.
without warming their bodies up or understanding how to stretch to that degree.
This aiming for perfection before you've even understood the sensations of it it can be quite a dangerous thing. And then you get into what I call the photocopy syndrome again. It's not really part of them. They're photocopying something. And that's the trap for many choreographers as well, because it's a journey you need to go on. I mean, many see the end result of Pina Bausch, for example. She's, no longer with us, but she created a movement in dance that is now emulated by just about everybody in the world, this dance theatre practice. But she started out as a really wonderful classical dancer with Tudor in America, doing Lilac Garden. But that journey to take her to make these revolutionary contemporary works was a long process. And I think people sort of tend to jump on the end of a process instead of going their own journey.
Try and find the fastest way.
Yeah, and this is, we are humans. We like to try and find, like water, the easiest pathway, and it's not always the best. We have to challenge ourselves.
Yeah,
and
great way to express that, though, like water, finding the... Well, let's talk about how you found your pathway, because obviously you had to have started when you were a young man.
I did.
Was it something that you'd always wanted to do, or did you fall into it?
Apparently, it seemed. It seems as though it was something that I always wanted to do. I mean, I'm not sure if this story is true or not, but was it Oscar Wilde said, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." But apparently, if I heard music, I would just take my clothes off and jump around, and this would happen almost anywhere.
And then at 21, finally the police caught up with you.
No, I made much more money then.
No, so how old were you?
I've only taken my clothes off twice in my whole professional career. And so it was an experience to dance naked, that's for sure. Yeah.
Wasn't it Robert Hellman said that not everything stops at the same time?
It's true, but it's not meant to.
But how old were you, do you remember, doing when you did this?
Probably 8. 7, 8.
Because it's actually a very human thing to do for small children, to dance naked after a bath or whatever.
But even to start dancing, because I have a grandson, he's just turned 1, but any music comes on and he's moving, which is just delightful to watch.
Well, it should be a natural part of being a human being.
Yeah.
I think so often it gets sort of... It's like visual arts. Some kids, without being told you can't do this, they make some wonderful paintings, because they have not been told you can't do it.
No.
So it's the same with dance, sort of in a strange way. You go through all this formal training and then you come back and you have to improvise. So you come right back full circle to doing something that young children have no problem with engaging with, which is great,
It's like friendships and understanding each other, isn't it? Children just automatically will befriend another child without any care or thought.
Yeah.
So, Leigh, who was your first teacher, do you remember?
Yes. June, her name was June Christian, and she was in Oxford in England. And within that first year, I did all my Royal Academy exams and got entrance to White Lodge, the Royal Ballet School. And my dad went along with me to White Lodge, and he said, this place for growing orchids, you know, it's a rarefied atmosphere, and you're coming home now. So I was not left behind. Oh. I got on the boat and came back to Australia with him.
Oh, yeah. What a shame. What a shame.
No, just because I met Val Tweedy.
Okay.
Valerian Tweedy was an astonishing... I had just such great luck because June Christian was a wonderful teacher. She gave me an incredible basis to work from, taking me through those exams.
Good technical foundation.
Yes, incredible.
Sorry, what you were just talking about before, though, about people feeling they can just do all of that dance stuff, that's what they're really missing, isn't it? It's that technical foundation.
Well, I mean, there are always exceptions. Some people can find their own way through. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, dancers who kind of finally get to those really incredible places in you know, the best companies around in the world usually do have a very solid training.
But it's, yes, because at some point in your life you need to achieve that so you understand that you're working with other people.
It allows you to be free.
Yes.
You use it to be free.
We've got so many photos of you that I really want to start showing before time escapes us too quickly. Yes. But we have to take a break, and we will straight after that.
Leigh Warren is our special guest. Thank you so much for being with us today. We have some wonderful photos to look at, so why don't we try and
yes, let's have a look. So this first shot, Leigh, how old were you then?
17 going on 18.
And was that Oz Ballet School?
I'd been already 2 years in the company.
Okay.
I only spent 1 year at the school and I went straight into the company.
Because of your background? Or because you were a genius?
I think Dame Peggy wanted someone for some very specific roles, and I seemed to just fit the bill. So there were a number of things that she had in mind that I would do, and she had her eye on me.
So you did.
I went into the Aussie Ballet very quickly.
See, look at that face. You're just looking towards the future. What will it hold?
I was about to go to America. I'd won a Churchill scholarship to go take me back to school. Really interesting.
So is this all of the ballet company?
This is the Diversion. This is the Rambert company in 1972, and I'm in there in those huge bell bottoms right in the middle of the picture there.
I can see
the bell bottoms. Yeah, this is the Rambert Ballet in London in Chiswick Park. It was my first season with them. I went to London to visit my grandmother, and I saw a performance of Rambert, and I went along like literally the next day. And of course they sort of said, "What are you here for?" And I said, "Oh, I've come to do class." And they looked. I think they were so taken aback. They said, "Oh, all right." So I did class, and then the associate director, John Chesworth, came up afterwards, and he said, "Are you looking for a job?" I said, "Yes," because I'd seen the performance the night before, and it was just wonderful. I was in love.
This is what I wanted to be.
I was just in love. You know, this. Christopher Bruce was making his first work. Norman Morris was there. It was a magic time. I was just so lucky they took me on. You know.
This shot here is you're obviously a little older here.
Yeah, this was with my own company here in Adelaide. I was...
he aged very quickly once he had his own company.
Well, you do.
The hair got out of control.
Yes, I understand that.
And
this is the shot when I was teaching at the Victorian College. I just finished dancing with the Netherlands Dance Theatre. I did quite a long stint with the Netherlands in Holland. And I came back hoping to, you know, start a career as a choreographer here in Australia. And within that first year, the position of artistic director at the Australian Dance Theatre came up.
Which is a new direction for ADT.
That was it.
I applied, and that was it. I was on my way back to Adelaide, you know.
And this shot here, You look decidedly pale.
I was. It's I took the role of Petrushka in Paul Cox's film the Diaries of Václav Nijinsky, which he filmed a lot of it here in Adelaide with my group here at the Norwood Concert Hall.
Well, I remember those years.
Yeah.
Were you playing Nijinsky?
Yes, that was me with Dion Hasty, the gorgeous Dion Hasty.
Now, this is obviously with your own company.
This is at the studio, which we had for a long, long time, thanks to Di Laidlaw. She,
in the top of the line arts centre
yes,
in South
right.
Australia.
We shared it with the Fringe, which is where the Fringe was originally, which was our new home, which was just magic to have a studio on our own, you know, of our own.
Yeah, what a great shot that is.
These two dancers are very special to me. They are both my muses. And over my career, you know, this is something sometimes choreographers forget, that that dancers give you their youth. It's something so valuable and so precious. And, you know, as a dancer, I gave it to choreographers also. But I think sometimes the choreographers forget that that's actually what's happening.
Well, the people are going to end up, the audience that we do it all for in the first place, and that's how I said we, as if I was a dancer. But when you think about it, the audience that are watching this, they're not actually seeing the choreographer do it, they're seeing the choreographer's muses doing it, if you like.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Can we just take you back, though, to the scholarship, the Churchill Scholarship that you won? How did that come about?
Well, a friend of my mother's, actually, who I was boarding with in Melbourne, I was in the Australian Ballet Company. I was in I just started my second year. She spotted it and she said, Leigh, you've always been, you know, saying that you didn't have enough time, you didn't, you know, get enough time, especially your musical education. And you know, here's a scholarship you can apply for to do anything. Go anywhere you like. And I had this really wonderful friend, Nanette Hassel, and she had been to Juilliard and learned composition and studied music and all that. And I'd heard all these stories from her, so I thought, well, maybe I should apply, you know. So I did, and, you know, gradually I got through all the hurdles that you had to, you know, pass interviews and not. But it was Dame Margaret Scott and Dame Peggy, who both supported me and who said, Leigh, if you really want to be a choreographer, at this moment in time in Australia, you're going to need to go away.
Is that because the international influences needed to make their mark?
No, it's because we didn't really have a resident choreographer within the Australian Ballet. And she said, you need to be apprenticed to a practicing choreographer who's in the wave of their creativity. And again, that's where I was so lucky. I was, first of all, with Christopher Bruce in London, and then I was with Yuri Killian and William Forsythe in Holland at the beginnings of those mega star careers. So
now, William,
it was very lucky, you know, to be in those waves.
Is William still doing a lot of the cruise ship things that he did?
There's two William Forsythe.
Oh, there's two. Okay.
There's two. There's that, you know.
There's that William.
That William who is here, and William Forsythe, who is an American who is with the Stuttgart Ballet. Right. And with Killian there, and then he became freelance, and he was the director of the Frankfurt Ballet.
So really, you became part of a worldwide ballet movement or creative movement.
Well, I was certainly in a wave of creative change. Let me put it that way. I mean, there were other places that, you know, and other wonderful choreographers around, you know, Twyla Tharp and Jerome Robbins in America, doing miracles as well. But I was in Europe, and so I happened to just luck out with that moment in time.
You wonder whether it's luck or the reality is that your abilities were recognised for what they were.
Well, I mean, you have to have luck, but you've got to be ready with it. And how I got to be in the Netherlands company was I was dancing with Rudolf Nureyev in Paris, actually. We were performing at the
Name
Champs.
dropper.
And, well,
why not?
Isn't that brilliant?
it's where I started with him. It's where I started with him in Adelaide for the Don Q production in 1970. So I was like 16, turning 17 or something.
How
and then I was dancing with him again in his company in Paris. And he'd asked Yuri Killian to come and make some work for him. And Yuri said, I'm sorry, I can't make work for you, but I really like that boy. I would like to have him in my company.
Isn't that amazing?
And so a deal was struck that I could go to Netherlands as long as I could come out and perform with Rudolf every so often.
How wonderful. And New York, you worked in New York too?
I went to school, I went back to school to Juilliard, and that was hard. But thank God I did, because I got to really, study music and composition, and I saw the Americans working, and Cunningham and all of that group in 1974, 75. I was there. Yes, that period of time was very rich in American dance. Twyla Tharp, sort of.
She had a huge influence, didn't she? She really changed.
Oh, Twyla's a genius, and Jerome Robbins. They're just.
What do you feel was your lasting legacy with ADT?
I think the legacy is in the next generation. There's Susan Peacock and Michael Waits and Joanne Layton. They're all still working around. Joanne Layton's working in France. Susan Peacock runs the W Academy and WA, and they're dotted all around. Peter and Lisa are here teaching at the Centre of Performing Arts. So my kind of teaching methodology and influence is gone out through the next generation.
I understand that. What about with your own company? Because Leigh Warren and Dancers here in South Australia was extremely well known.
But I had a great time. I had really had a great time, and I think that I got to do collaborations, and the pinnacle of that was to collaborate with the State Opera, and we produced the first Philip Glass operas, the trilogy of operas. That for me, and that was my training at Juilliard, all fulfilled in a way.
You totally understood what was going on.
The marriage between the music, the visual art, and the choreography, it all happened in that. And that was the kind of pinnacle of my career, I would say.
That's probably a good place to just take a short break, and we'll be back with Leigh in just a moment.
We're back with Leigh. Leigh, you were just saying before that you have worked with some extraordinary people, but who was your favourite?
Oh, I don't really have a favourite, but I think probably the person I owe a great deal to was Rudolf Nureyev. He made me do a bar with him before we did every performance, and he would do the bar behind me, and then he'd walk around to the other side and be behind me again, and we would do the same bar over and over and over, and finally I stopped getting hit and whacked and poked, and I knew I was getting better. And I think he turned me from a good dancer into an exceptional dancer, and the one that Yuri saw.
But that's because there's repetition and training the brain and the body to do exactly what you want it to do, exactly when you want it.
It's knowing precise coordinates in space and time. It sounds a bit weird, and then you can be free to move away from that. If you don't know where the lines are, you're just an amoeba most of the time.
I've watched you choreograph, and your attention to detail and the creative force, if you like, that you're giving to the dancers and they're giving you back. Where do you feel dance is going?
I feel very optimistic. I know sometimes it feels like there aren't new people emerging, but there's a young woman, Stephanie Lake, that I think is exceptionally talented here. She's not alone. There are a few of them, actually. They're just, the next generation are looking good. I think it's tougher. It's less opportunity, so we don't see them. They're not as visible. Visibility is everything, and dance has become a little bit less, well, not a little, it's a lot less visible. So of course it's not going to be more popular. You know, it's other things have taken over. But I think it will come back. It will come back, and we have the talent.
There's also all different forms of dance pushing that as well, isn't there? Well, we were talking before about the YouTube generation. There's all the hip-hop street work and so on that is happening.
Yes, true. I mean, but that's the universe, isn't it? It's continuously more complex. It's, you know, we
Continually
just
evolving.
have to we have to deal with it.
As
you know,
is dance.
and they must learn to do that.
Leigh, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for sharing this half hour with us. And come back next year when you come home, if we're still doing the program, because by that time we will have gone well over 400 episodes.
Absolutely.
We will have talked to over 1,500 people on this program, and it's been a delight talking with people like you every time, hasn't it, Janice?
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. My absolute pleasure.
Speaking of time, it is.
Time to go.
Keep yourself nice till next time we meet. Bye.